Chapter 4 Morrison's Pill. What is to be done? What would you have us do? Asks many a one with a tone of impatience, almost of reproach, and then, if you mention some one thing, some two things, 20 things what that might be done, turns round with a satirical tee-hee, and these are your remedies? The state of mind indicated by such question and such rejoinder is worth reflecting on. So, Carlyle is saying that many people ask for a solution, but when some solutions are offered, turn around and basically ridicule and mock the choices offered. And in this chapter, he's going to be reflecting on that. The name of the chapter, Morrison's Pill, it refers to a Dr. James Morrison's Universal Medicines, who he was a Scottish merchant who founded the British College of Health, and he made some pills known as Morrison's pills. And these pills were marketed as a cure for almost every illness because Dr. James Morrison's thesis was that all disease comes from impurities of the blood or digestive system. So he made pills that were herbal laxatives that were meant to cure all sorts of things. Yeah. And in this chapter, Carlyle is going to say people want a Morrison's pill, but there is none, as we'll see. It seems to be taken for granted by these interrogative philosophers that there is something or handful of things which could be done, some act of parliament, remedial measure or the like, which could be passed, whereby the social malady were fairly fronted, conquered, put an end to, so that with your remedial measure in your pocket, you could then go on triumphant and be troubled no farther. You tell us the evil, cry such persons as if justly aggrieved, and do not tell us how it is to be cured. So Carlyle is going to basically argue against the sentiment where people want one solution that once in your pocket, once done, you can just go on, keep on keeping on, as they say. And it's so interesting, the sentiment that you tell us the problem, but you don't give us the cure. This sentiment is very much present in our modern day as well. Anyone who speaks about the ills of the day, the immediate backlash they get is, okay, so what do we do about it? So it's interesting that 200 years ago, this was also still happening. How it is to be cured? Brothers, I am sorry, I've got no Morrison's pill for curing the maladies of society. It were infinitely handier if we had a Morrison's pill, Act of Parliament, or remedial measure, which men could swallow one good time, and then go on in their old courses, cleared from all miseries and mischiefs. Unluckily, we have none such. Unluckily, the heavens themselves, in their rich pharmacopoeia, contain none such. There will no thing be done that will cure you. There will a radical, universal alteration of your regimen and way of life take place. There will a most agonizing divorce between you and your chimeras, luxuries, falsities take place. A most toilsome, all but impossible return to nature, and her veracities and her integrities take place, that so the inner fountains of life may again begin, like eternal light fountains, to irradiate and purify your bloated, swollen, foul existence, drawing nigh, as at present, to nameless death, drawing nigh to nameless death. Either death or else all this will take place. Judge if, with such diagnosis, any Morrison's pill is like to be discoverable. So Carlyle is saying that the solution to the maladies of society that Carlyle has identified so far, the solution is a very deep, radical, universal alteration of basically the entire perspective of society. It is not one thing. There's no one simple cure, one simple action. I love that, like, the a divorce between you and your chimeras, luxuries, and falsities. So a lot of people, Carlyle implies, are deeply attached to false things, to luxuries, to here chimera means illusion, fantasy, delusion. So if people are this attached to things and the divorce will be so toilsome, then it implies a very radical change of perspective so that the light can purify uh, the foul existence of people again. And Carlyle is um, foreseeing that either this will happen or death will happen. So Carlyle is not seeing any other way this could go about. There's no simple solutions or cures Carlyle is foreseeing. But the life fountain within you once again set flowing what innumerable things, whole sets and classes and continents of things, year after year, and decade after decade, and century after century, will then be doable and done. Not immigration, education, corn law, abrogation, sanitary regulation, and land property tax, not these alone, nor 1,000 times as much as these. Good heavens, there will then be light in the inner heart of here and there a man to discern what is just, what is commanded by the Most High God, what must be done, were it never so impossible. Vain jargon in favor of the palpably unjust will then abridge itself within limits. Vain jargon on hustings in parliaments or wherever else, when here and there a man has vision for the essential God's truth or the things jargoned of, will become very vain indeed. The silence of here and there such a man, how eloquent in answer to such jargon. Such jargon, frightened at its own gaunt echo, will unspeakably abate, nay, for a while, may almost in a manner disappear, the wise answering it in silence, and even the simple taking cue from them to hoot it down wherever heard. It will be a blessed time, and many things will become doable, and when the brains are out, an absurdity will die. Not easily again shall a corn law argue 10 years for itself, and still talk and argue, when impartial persons have to say with a sigh that for so long back they have heard no argument advanced for it, but such as might make the angels and almost the very jackasses weep. A very famously Carlylean huge sentence. So let me talk about the generalities before going into the specifics. So Carlyle is basically saying once this life fountain sets flowing again, so once the radical change in perspective has been enacted, many things will be doable. And it won't be just one thing, it will be decades and centuries of things and continents of things. So a lot more things that seem undoable today, that don't seem feasible today, will become feasible once the perspective has been altered. And he's giving a number of examples, so not just, these taxes or that regulation, but 1,000 times as much as these. So you get the sense that any one of these things, like corn laws, as he mentions, like the corn laws, these were laws in Britain that I think protected the domestic production of corn with like tariffs and such. So apparently it took 10 years for them to be enacted, 10 years of arguments in parliaments on hustings. Hustings is also a meeting at which candidates in an election address potential voters. So like so much debate has been done, so many things have been discussed just to enact these. But Carlyle is saying once here and there a man, so once the men have their perspectives altered, so much discussion will not even be necessary. And he's saying that a lot of this will be vain jargon. When you have the essential God's truth, when your perspective is aligned towards the God's truth, then so much discussion becomes even unnecessary and a silence will reign. And even the simple, so a silence will reign among the governing class. In fact, the talk will be sort of ashamed at its own gaunt echo, that therefore it will abate. So, you won't even want to speak these wrong and false and ludicrous things. So there will be a top down silence where even the lower classes will take a cue and just like turn their heads away from um, unnecessary, vain talks. And there will come a point where never again shall a corn law, something simple will have 10 years, simple or unfair, something will never have 10 years of argument behind it, so that people will say at some point that, they have heard no argument advanced for things, and any argument that was advanced for it would make the angels and even the donkeys weep. So it will sound so grating to our ears to hear bad and false talk and vain arguments. Wholly a blessed time when jargon might abate, and here and there some genuine speech begin. When to the noble opened heart, as to such heart they alone do, all noble things began to grow visible, and the difference between just and unjust, between true and false, between work and sham work, between speech and jargon what to our happier fathers was once more, what to our happier fathers it used to be, infinite, as between a heavenly thing and an infernal, the one thing which you were not to do, which you were not to do, which you were wise not to attempt doing, which it were better for you to have a millstone tied round your neck and be cast into the sea than concern yourself with doing. Brothers, it will not be a Morrison's pill or remedial measure that will bring all this about for us. So Carlyle is saying, once this blessed time begins, once the life fountain sets flowing, after this radical universal alteration and the divorce between you and your chimeras and luxuries and falsities, when that time has begun, it will feel like the noble opened heart is going to see so many noble things. And the difference between doing something just and unjust, between the real work and the sham work, between speech and jargon. So the speech and the vain, useless jargon speech, that difference will feel infinite as it did feel to our ancestors before. And since the choice of what to do next feels so infinitely different, the things that you are not supposed to do, the thing that is unjust, that is vain, that will feel like something that you'd rather die than doing, essentially. Have a millstone tied around your neck and cast into the sea than concern yourself with doing. So, finally, he sums up by saying, as you can see, the change of perspective is going to be so radical. There's no one simple cure that will bring this about. And yet, very literally, till in some shape or other be it brought about, we remain cureless. Till it begin to be brought about, the cure does not begin. For nature and fact, not red tape and semblance, are to this hour the basis of man's life, and on those, through never such strata of these, man and his life and all his interests do, sooner or later, infallibly come to rest, and to be supported or be swallowed according as they agree with those. The question is asked of them not, how do you agree with Downing Street and accredited semblance, but how do you agree with God's universe and the actual reality of things? This universe has its laws. If we walk according to the lawmaker will befriend us. If not, not. Alas, by no reform bill, ballot box, 5-point charter, by no boxes or bills or charters, can you perform this alchemy, given a world of knaves to produce an honesty from their united action. It is a distillation once for all not possible. You pass it through alembic after alembic, it comes out still a dishonesty, with a new dress on it, a new color to it. While we ourselves continue valets, how can any hero come to govern us? We are governed very infallibly by the sham hero, whose name is Quack, whose work and governance is plausibility, and also is falsity and fatuity, to which nature says, and must say when it comes to her to speak, eternally no. Nations cease to be befriended of the lawmaker when they walk not according to the law. The Sphinx question remains unsolved by them, becomes ever more insoluble. Just fantastic lines. So Carlyle is saying, we remain cureless, but so until this perspective change comes, we remain cureless, and yet Carlyle says the basis of man's life is nature and fact. It is never red tape, bureaucracy, and the semblance, the fakeness of things. So sooner or later, infallibly, the man and his life comes to rest on nature and fact. And to be supported or swallowed, so to basically rest on the decisions made if it's according to nature and fact, according as they agree with those being nature and fact. So the question asked of them is not, did you do what Downing Street and accredited semblance, did you do what these institutions asked you to do? But did your actions agree with God's universe and the reality of things? So once again, we see Carlyle reasserting that the universe has laws that are there, that are certain, and sooner or later that we will be judged by them. So there's no there's no particular 5-point plan. There's no reform, nothing like that. That can change the final calculus of how you will be judged. So here it's very interesting. He says, nothing short of a change in your perspective to discern the just from the unjust can actually get you to a result that will agree with God's universe and the actual reality of things. So the alchemy he's talking about is given a world of knaves. Knaves means a dishonest or unscrupulous man. So a man that has the bad perspective, a man that does not know even the difference between the just or unjust. Given a bunch of these guys, you cannot produce an honest result from their united action. So it is not possible to reform men with laws, Carlyle is arguing. Procedurally reform men. I love this phrase, you pass it through alembic after alembic. So these are, alembic is a distilling apparatus, now obsolete, consisting of a rounded necked flask and a cap with a long beak for condensing and conveying the products to a receiver. So he's saying you can take these people, these dishonest people that have not yet changed their perspective, that are kind of aligned with Downing Street and semblance rather than God and reality. And you can, put them through laws, put them through plans, and ultimately what you will get at the end is still dishonesty with a new dress and a new color to it. So he's saying, while we ourselves continue valets, valet in this case means, and we can look it up here, means to remain in the mindset or condition of servants, flatterers, or shallow attendants. So if people's perspective towards their governors is just one of doing their bidding to get what they need, then no hero can come to govern us and get us out of this mess. And instead what we'll get are sham heroes, we'll get quacks, falsities. Fatuity means silly and pointlessness. So we'll get a lot of pointless actions. And nature, God, reality, fact, these are all used synonymously by Carlyle. Nature, when it comes to her turn to speak, eventually will say no. So when the lawmaker, when they're not in alignment with the lawmaker, when they're governed by the quacks and the falsities and fatuities, they will um, they will not have walked according to the law, and the Sphinx question will remain unsolved. And of course, as we know, at the end the Sphinx will devour them if they do not meet the riddle of the day. If thou ask again, therefore, on the Morrison's pill hypothesis, what is to be done, allow me to reply. By thee, for the present, almost nothing. Thou there, the thing for thee to do is, if possible, to cease to be a hollow-sounding shell of hearsays, egoisms, purblind dilettantisms, and become, were it not on the infinitely small scale, a faithful, discerning soul. Thou shalt descend into thy inner man, and see if there be any traces of a soul there. Till then there can be nothing done. O brother, we must, if possible, resuscitate some soul or conscience in us, exchange our dilettantisms for sincerities, our dead hearts of stone for living hearts of flesh. Then shall we discern not one thing, but in clearer or dimmer sequence, a whole endless host of things that can be done. Do the first of these, do it, the second will already have become clearer. Doubler, the second, third, and 3,000th will then begun to be possible for us. Will then have begun to be possible for us. Not any universal Morrison's pill shall we then, either as swallowers or as vendors, ask after all, but a far different sort of remedies. Quacks shall no more have dominion over us, but true heroes and healers. Just so interesting, so fascinating. Carlyle is saying, ask not. The where Carlyle is going basically is ask not for a simple cure to the maladies, but the sort of pureness of heart, a pureness of an acting from conscience and soul, such that the things that have dominion over you are not going to be quacks, falsities, fatuities, but true heroes and healers. So it's almost like you change your internals so that you're aligned. Your receptors are no longer picking up the frequency of to put it in very modern terms, not picking up the frequency of quacks and shams, but instead true heroes and healers. So the internal change will cause an outside change in what we are influenced by. And to that end, he says, what you can do by yourself, almost nothing except cease to be a hollow sounding shell of hearsays, egoisms. Purblind means lacking insight or perception, unperceptive. So cease to be influenced, and in terms of sounding shell, cease to propagate these fakenesses and falsities of the day, and try to become a faithful, discerning soul. And when you are able to do this, then you will start seeing things that are doable, and they won't be just one thing. They'll be either clearer or dimmer, a whole endless host of things that you can do. Once you do this internal change, many things will become visible to you, Carlyle is arguing, that are not visible today. And you start doing the first one, and the second one will already become clearer. And the third and the 3,000th. So he's saying after the internal change, you will see different paths open up, and you will no longer ask for a specific cure, but instead the different sort of remedy, which is that the things that influence you only be heroes and healers from now on. Will not that be a thing worthy of doing, to deliver ourselves from quacks, sham heroes, to deliver the whole world more and more from such? They are the one bane of the world. Once clear the world of them, it ceases to be a devil's world, in all fibers of it wretched and accursed, and begins to be a God's world, blessed and working hourly towards blessedness. Thou for one wilt not again vote for any quack, do honor to any edge-gilt vacuity in man's shape. Kant shall be Kant shall be known to thee by the sound of it. Thou wilt fly from Kant with a shudder never felt before, as from the opened litany of sorcerers' sabbats, the true devil worship of the sage, more horrible than any other blasphemy, profanity, or genuine blackguardism elsewhere audible among men. So, first of all, there are a couple of things that we can define. So, Carlyle is saying, so where did I begin? So, you will never again, once you've done this change, and that will be a thing worth doing, the clarity in your heart, to figure out who are the quacks and who are the true heroes and healers, and not follow the quacks anymore, not follow the hearsays, the egoisms and stuff. That will be a very much a worthy thing doing, not only for yourself, but also to rescue the world from them as well. And once you've done that, you will no longer do a number of things. So you will no longer, Carlyle is saying, vote for quacks or do honor to any, I love this phrase, edge-gilt vacuity in man's shape. So vacuity means just emptiness, and edge-gilt in this case means like a golden edge. So you will recognize hollow people that seem that have the semblance of gold, and you will no longer do honor to them. And you will fly. This word is not used by us anymore, but cant means insincere, hollow, or hypocritical talk, especially moral or religious talk that pretends to virtue or feeling, but lacks sincerity or real conviction. So he's saying you will, once you purify yourself, fly from this insincere talk with a shudder never felt before. And in here, sorcerers' sabbats refers metaphorically to witches or devils gathering, a scene of dark, perverse worship. And blackguardism means gross vulgarity, moral baseness, or shameless behavior. So you will fly from empty talk with a shudder as if you've just seen a witches gathering, a devil worship, and vulgarity, elsewhere audible, profanity or vulgarity, more horrible than any other blasphemy, profanity or vulgarity, elsewhere audible among men. So empty talk, insincere talk will feel so repulsive, so unbearable to you that you will escape from it. It is alarming to witness in this present completed state. Sorry. It's alarming to witness in this completed state. And quack and dupe, as we must ever keep in mind, are upper side and under of the self-same substance. Convertible personages. Turn up your dupe into the proper fostering element, and he himself can become a quack. There is in him the due prurient insincerity, open veracity for profit, and closed sense for truth, whereof quacks too, all in all their kinds are made. Here it's interesting. Carlyle is saying, it is overall interesting how much Carlyle emphasizes the quacks, because before this he said many things are wrong in the world, but he's especially focusing on quacks, on cant, on empty, insincere talk. And here he's saying the falsities, the dupes, and quacks, the empty and insincere talks, they are the other side of the medallion of each other. So they're very similar. So just because the empty and insincere talks are not straight up falsities does not mean that they are equally as deceiving and as damaging to you. And he's saying here they're the same. So you can turn up the dupe with proper fostering and he'll become a quack. And inside the quack, there's the same prurient insincerity, there's the same veracity for profit that you find in dupes. Alas, it is not to the hero, it is to the sham hero that of right and necessity the valet world belongs. What is to be done? The reader sees whether it is like to be the seeking and swallowing of some remedial measure. So Carlyle says, this valley world where all this insincere, servile attitude of the people belongs not to real heroes, but that of sham heroes, and that's what they will attract. And Carlyle says what is to be done is not a simple seeking and swallowing of a remedial measure. The reader sees that if it is like that, and it's not, it is a much more radical change in perspective that is needed.